Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Pam Ng, a product marketer on the Google Display Network, and I want to welcome everyone to our Learn with Google webinar, Getting Started with Dynamic Remarketing. That's what we're covering today, and I just wanted to point out in the slide that you're seeing is that this is really the latest in a series of remarketing webinars that we've done with Learn with Google. So if there's any other particular topic on remarketing that you're interested in covering, feel free to visit our Learn with Google website so you can reach archives of past video presentations. I'm joined here today by David Monses, Product Manager for Display Ads, and Annie Wu, a Campaign Manager and Implementation Specialist on the GDN. But before we get fully started, I just wanted to cover a couple of housekeeping issues with you to make sure that you have a great experience with us today. So I'm going to give you a quick tour of the console. The content is going to take about 35 to 40 minutes to run through, and then we'll have plenty of time to answer questions at the end. So you'll see on the left of your screen that there's a Q&A box. So feel free to chat in your questions throughout the webinar, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can towards the end. You can also use this box if you're having technical issues, and we'll get you back on track right away. The second thing I want to point out are there are a series of 3 widgets at the bottom of the console. And I won't go over everything, but there's a couple that are important to point out. The first is our Twitter widget, and you can use this to tweet directly from the console. It automatically adds today's hashtag, which is hashtag GDNWebinar. In terms of resources, we encourage everybody to look at the green folder icon, and it has a direct link to our GDN guidebook, which is a great resource if you want to check out more on GDN overall, and it does provide more information related to today's webinar topic. And then last but not least, there's a survey which we encourage everyone to quickly fill out at the end because we really value your feedback, and then we also adjust our webinar content to respond to your feedback and make the content better. And then as an added bonus, everyone who fills out the survey today will be entered to win a Nexus 7. So one last thing about this webinar, as the other ones in our archive, is it'll be recorded and sent to you via email within a few days. So look out for that if you want to replay the content today's webinar again or share it with colleagues if you find this useful. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Dave, who's going to get us started today. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Pam. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. As Pam mentioned, my name is David Monses. I'm a product manager here at Google, working on our display ad products on the Google Display Network. And today, the product and engineering team is really excited to grab some of your time to talk to you a little bit about what we've done in advancements in our core remarketing product, as well as what dynamic remarketing brings to the table. So as ways of a loose agenda, we'll go a little bit over our current remarketing product. And as Pam mentioned, there's a lot of previous sessions that cover some of these aspects in more depth. Then we'll go into dynamic remarketing, the benefits that brings. Then Annie will actually take us through how to get started in AdWords and launch a dynamic remarketing campaign. And then finally, we'll save some time to answer your questions. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the product. So without further ado, let's kind of move into the slide. So most people are probably familiar with remarketing today, but just to reiterate the value that remarketing can bring to a display campaign, about 96% of users that visit your website will leave without completing the actions you're there for them to take, be it a purchase or an email subscription or downloading a newsletter. Remarketing helps identify these users and bring them back. In the retail space, one of the most valuable user segments that we see is people that abandon shopping carts before completing a purchase. A statistic says that 70% of people will leave a shopping cart before buying. Now, what remarketing allows us to do is to recapture that intent and drive back into the ad. So when we think about how remarketing works, what we do is we take users that come to your website. When they perform different actions on your site, be it viewing products or maybe watching videos or adding products to your shopping cart, we're able to capture this user's interest. And then when the user leaves the site and continues browsing across the Google Display Network and the 2 million publisher websites that the GDN is able to reach, we can identify your users, bid against them for you within the AdWords auction, and then show them the most relevant creative possible at that time. So what this does is it really brings back your unconverted visitors by putting the most relevant creative in front of them. So two good examples of how remarketing has worked are some recent clients of ours. First off is Kelly Co. Now, Kelly Co. sells metal detectors, so it's a very targeted audience that they try to address. Now, they were using keyword contextual campaigns to drive and attract new users interested in metal detector kind of categories onto their site. Now, if you remember from our stat, if 96% of users will fall off of the site before performing the desired action, Kelly Co. looked to remarketing on the GDN as a way to bring those users back. Now, with the combination of their keyword contextual campaign as well as the remarketing campaign, they saw visits grow dramatically, and they saw 62% in overall transactions. So the two products ended up working really well for Kelly Co. together. Likewise, in Latin America, Editorial Abril, who's a very popular publisher, was able to use remarketing to drive additional incremental conversions to their page. Now today, remarketing counts for 13% of all of their conversions. And if you look at the performance that remarketing brings over traditional targeting options on the display network, they see a 30% higher CTR and over 1,000% higher conversion rate compared to the rest of their campaigns. So as you can see, remarketing brings a lot of performance to these campaigns. Now, what we're excited to talk about today is ways to make remarketing perform even better for you. And that's where dynamic remarketing comes in. What dynamic remarketing allows us to do is create dynamic ads that are assembled literally in real time on every impression. They take all the different detailed remarketing data as well as combination from, in this case, a Google Merchant Center product catalog, and actually assemble and build the most relevant creative possible. So if we know that a user, for example, with ModCloth, who's a popular custom clothing manufacturer in the San Francisco Bay Area, if we know that the users looked at a few different dresses on the site and they're just kind of browsing around and they fall out, whereas traditional remarketing allows AdWords to help find and identify that user to serve an ad against, what the dynamic remarketing capability allows us to do is to personalize the content within that dynamic ad to show the types of products that both that user looked at and products that similar users looked at. So it's a perfect combination of relevant, interesting, and hopefully highly transactional information. So some examples of dynamic remarketing campaigns and the impact that dynamic remarketing, that one dynamic layer, can have on top of what we know is already a very powerful product such as remarketing. So if we look at Storky. Storky makes a lot of custom printed invitations, cards, think of wedding invitations, parties. Now, when Storky looked at running dynamic remarketing, where they were pulling products from the Google Merchant Center catalog into their creative, they saw conversions grow by 117% across the GDN. Now that's a 200% plus increase over the regular display ads. So they see not only additional conversions, but a much better conversion rate. And so if we think of the kind of the benefit to Storky in this case, what they have is the two, again, working very complementary to each other, driving more users to their site and increasing the amount of the dynamic remarketed users' conversion rates. Sierra Trading Post is another great example. So Sierra Trading Post sells a variety of outdoor gear and outerwear. They have a few retail stores as well. And what they were really interested in doing is investing in display as a way to help complete a kind of a full marketing strategy for them. Now, by applying dynamic remarketing to their existing campaign, they grew conversions 5 times thanks to the product. Now, in this multiplier of conversion rates, we also saw CTR double. So that's a 100% increase in their click-through rates. So what this means is that we're driving more users to the site, but those users that drive back are also converting at a higher frequency. One additional benefit that Sierra Trading looked at doing is they enable what we call optimized layout. And what the optimized layout allows Google to is actually to select how the creative looks, not just the content of the creative. And Sierra saw that drive additional added benefit to their campaign. So these are just 2 of many great examples of how dynamic remarketing can help improve an existing campaign's performance, particularly in the retail space. So now let's talk a little bit more about the details of what makes dynamic remarketing work. So with any dynamic remarketing campaign, there's 3 fundamentals you really have to think of. It's your audience, which we identify on the GDN via your remarketing list. It's your creative, in which you're able to use the GDN's display ad builder to quickly build and customize a dynamic creative. And it's your campaign strategy, how you set up and manage your campaign, your bids, and your targeting mix. So let's go into some details about these product areas right now. So hopefully most people are familiar with the AdWords new remarketing tag. But what the new remarketing tag allows you to do is place one universal tag across your entire site. No need to generate hundreds or thousands of unique remarketing tags anymore. And you're able to create what we call rule-based lists off of either the landing page that the tag was placed on or explicitly test information like the type of page that the user's on, shopping cart, product details, and specific information like the product ID that the user's looking at. Now what this allows you to do is within the AdWords Audience Library interface, which Annie will show us later on, you'll have the ability to actually create these different lists and place different values on lists. For example, if I create a list of everyone that's visited my homepage, then I might be able to tell them a more general strategy, a more general marketing creative, like come on back, or maybe I show a large promotion in my ad. Whereas for a user that actually viewed a shopping cart and added products, maybe I want to push an offer that says, view today's prices, buy now, and put that explicit offer in front of them, and allow the dynamic remarketing creative to personalize the content within the ad. So in summary, what this allows you to do is reach very specific groups of customers and quickly and adaptively change and create new remarketing lists on the fly without the need to retag on your site. Now once you have your list identified, you want to make sure that you put the most relevant creative in front of them. Now an easy way to do this, both for dynamic and non-dynamic creative, is to use Display Ad Builder. Now within our dynamic creative types for Display Ad Builder, we actually have single creatives that are able to run over 50 layouts, and we're adding one new layout every week. So if you think of the creative that's on the slide in front of you, the design of showing one large product and a thumbnail of multiple other products to the right of it, that's what we would call a layout. And within the display network, we've seen drastic performance increases by allowing the Google Display backend to actually optimize and choose the best layout for the best person at a given time. Now the content is, of course, still relevant based on the remarketing data. Additionally, Display Ad Builder allows you to customize over 50 additional variables within the creative, including your logo, background colors, the types of corners you want, what type of button style you'd like to do. So it gives you a lot of control to focus not only on a performance creative format, but also to apply your unique branding and personalization to it. So as we think about display campaigns now running across the network, there's also another important part to the Google Display Network that you're probably familiar with, and that's the use of text ads running within text inventory. Now, text inventory opens up a brand new portion of the Google Display Network that you're not getting access to if you're only running image format ads. Did you know that 70% of GDN's top publishers offer text inventory? This is over 8 billion impressions a day, and it's impressions in a very unique way. Text impression inventory is exclusive to the GDN, where other networks and DSPs may not be able to run. It also gives you access to some unique publisher spaces where publishers choose to place text instead of image ads, which opens up new audiences and new inventory opportunities for you. Additionally, text can be pretty customizable as well. For our dynamic text ads, as you can see on the examples on the left-hand side of the slide, we're able to insert not only the name and price of a product, but you can also enter optional promotional text, which allows you to customize and personalize the content of the text ad based on those remarketing lists we talked about a few slides ago. We're also able, on some publisher sites, to display a thumbnail of the product that you looked at. And we see great performance because remarketing users are already interested in these products, and something as actionable as a text ad can do a very good job of attracting and getting them back onto your site and ready to convert. So additionally, a lot of the content of these creatives that we've talked about and looked at are backed around the Google Merchant Center product catalog. Now, most retailers are familiar with Google Merchant Center as your entry point to a lot of other Google products focused on shopping. So there's the Google Shopping product experience. There's product listing ads on the google.com website. You have results within search, the ability to leverage products like Google Commerce Search, search as you type, and then additional products like Google Catalogs and Google Circulars. Now, we also use Google Merchant Center, the same product feed, to power your dynamic remarketing ad. So what does this mean for you? So what this means is that for a retailer, there's one-stop shop to load and manage your product catalog as best as you can, which then surfaces that quality product information on multiple data sources without having to provide a new feed, load a new feed every time. The other great thing is that we provide additional tools to help you in tagging to ensure that the product IDs that you place into your AdWords new remarketing tag match the product IDs within your Merchant Center catalog. So it really becomes one holistic, integrated experience for retail. Now there's some other great benefits that dynamic creatives allow us to do. So I mentioned a little bit about auto-optimized layouts and how Sierra Trading Post saw auto-optimized layout deliver 2 times the CTR versus the previous option. So auto-optimized layouts is an option within Display Ad Builder which gives you the ability to preview multiple different designs for a single creative. But in the serving time, it allows AdWords to select the best performing creative layout based on the given impression. So with auto-optimized layouts, we've seen across multiple clients boosts as high as a 50% higher CTR, in Sierra's case it was 100%, and up to 21% lower CPA. So not only, again, does it drive more users to your site, but it puts the right kind of context for users ready to convert. Another way that we look at improving performance of your campaign, how you manage your campaign, is what's known as Conversion Optimizer. Now, Conversion Optimizer is an option available for any of your display campaigns where it allows you to enter a target CPA, a cost per action, and allows AdWords to do most of your bid optimization for you to hit that objective. Now, for remarketing campaigns and dynamic remarketing campaigns, Conversion Optimizer is able to do even more. Conversion Optimizer will look at the recency that a user visits your site. We also look at the number of products that a user visits on your site to get a better sense of how to perform. Now, if you look at this graph, what the graph is trying to show is that the average CPA, what you end up paying for an action, for a conversion in this case, increases greatly based on the time since the user last visit. Instead of having to manually create lists targeting these different age segments, Conversion Optimizer handles this aggressive bidding adjustment for you automatically. So for advertisers that have enabled Conversion Optimizer with remarketing, we've seen a 14% increase in conversion and at the same time an 8% reduction in CPA. So you're again making more conversions and paying less for them. Now finally, when a user views a product, maybe the last product they looked at, but the product they saw on your site isn't necessarily the one that they're most interested in buying. Now if you're familiar at all with recommendation engines, where we present on a given website, people who looked at the product you're looking at were also interested and viewed and purchased these other types of products. With our dynamic remarketing ads, we're able to surface those same types of recommendations directly within the creative. So in this example, a user who looked at tennis shoes may actually be interested in seeing tennis rackets. Now we're able to look not only and infer the patterns of what similar shopping patterns people perform with Google, but we're also able to look at the context of a site. So without having to target keywords within your ad group, your dynamic remarketing creative is able to use those keywords to get a better sense of what type of product may be the right product to put in this impression at a given time. As you can imagine, the combination of smarter remarketing with segmentation, the automated bidding algorithms from Conversion Optimizer, the automated and variable creative layouts in Display Ad Builder, and this type of recommendation engine product selection quality has great impact on the overall performance of your campaign. Now, enough about talking about all the cool features. Let's actually see the features. So for now, I'd like to hand it off to Annie Wu to walk you through AdWords and how we set these campaigns. Annie?
Great. Thanks, Dave. So I'm going to share my screen and give a demo to share some of the best practices and to show you how quick and easy it is to set up a dynamic remarketing campaign. You should see a window popping up shortly with my screen and to an AdWords account. So like Dave mentioned, the first step is to implement the new remarketing tag across the entire site. After this is implemented, you can then create sophisticated list strategies within the AdWords UI under the Shared Library link under the Campaigns tab. So on my screen, I've already gone to the Shared Library tab. And here, under New Audiences, you could create a new remarketing list. You'll notice that the UI will recognize what you pass into the tag and pre-populate the parameter name for easy list creation. So for example, in the new remarketing tag, if you were to pass in page type parameters, you'll notice that you could easily create a list for, let's say, users who visited where page type equals product. And this would be an example of a list to create to target users, product users who have visited your product detail pages. As well, what you can do is change the membership duration. It'll default to 30 days, but you can easily change it to 15 if you just want to target your more recent product viewers. So let's create a quick and easy list, less than 15 days. What you can do is save this list. You can save multiple lists by also creating where a page type equals, let's say, the cart to reach users who have reached the cart pages. And after saving multiple lists, what you'll notice in your shared library is that you can create various different lists from just one new remarketing tag. Great. So after creating a list, we can then go and create the campaign. You can go to your all online campaigns. Under New Campaign, go to Display Network Only. And here you can rename the campaign name to be, let's say, Dynamic Remarketing. We'll say Demo for today. Select the type as Remarketing. And then you can enter in your budget for the day. And what you'll notice as well is it will show up a dynamic remarketing section where it will link to any of your Merchant Center feeds that are linked to this AdWords account. So you can easily select a Merchant Center feed that's linked. And this is how our dynamic ads will know which feed to pull the products from. If you want to, you can go ahead and select the language and location, but we've defaulted to all language and location to follow our best practice recommendations. And you can hit Save and Continue. Let's try this one more time. Hang on one second. So I'm not exactly sure why it's giving an internal error. Let me try it in one more area. Try it one more time here. Okay, great. So it should really be only like 2 clicks, and you should be able to create the campaign. Then what it'll take you to is creating the ad group. So let's create our first ad group, product viewers, and we could set a default bid of, let's say, $1. And here is where you can associate the list that you created. So for example, we created that product viewers list. It would actually show up here, and you can select it and then hit Save and Continue. So then what will happen is, hang on one second, let me try it back in. Sorry about this, guys. Okay, perfect. So that's what should have normally happened. Let's do a product viewers and set a bid, a target CPA. And here you could select the product viewer list that we had created before and hit Save and Continue. So what you'll notice here is that the dynamic text ad that Dave had mentioned will automatically be created for you, and it will direct you to create the dynamic image ad. And what I'll default to is the auto-optimize layout that Dave also recommended, which will basically allow the system to cycle through any of the available layouts that we have and start showing the ones that perform the best. It'll also link up to your Merchant Center feed that you had selected and pull in products from the feed so you could see a preview of what your ad will look like. The next thing you'll need to do is just upload your logo. You could do it through your desktop if you have it already, but if you don't have it, you could easily go to My Site, enter in your site, and this will fetch the logo or any JPEGs from your site, and you can select your logo that way as well. The next step is we recommend entering a promotional headline text if you have any. So let's say if we say free shipping greater than $50. And as well, you could customize the ad with more of our settings here. So for instance, we could change the product price color to be black instead of red, and you'll notice that any changes you make will get reflected in the ad. And we could change possibly the glow color to be the Google green. Oh, and one thing that's really cool is you could select color from the palette, or you could specify a hex code if you have one. And you notice the glow color, when you hover over it, will show that slight green. You can also change the image corners, so let's say these square corners. As well, let's do one more change. Let's change the button color to be the Google blue, so you can kind of get an idea of what this will look like. And you could also change background colors. And I'm just going to choose something from the palette. So after changing all this, one more cool thing that you can do is also upload a background image if you guys have any. So after seeing this, you can then cycle through the layouts and see what they will look like. So I'm just going to show you a few that I like. You'll notice that we have various different layouts, and we have some that actually are animated. So here's one that's animated. And here's another one that looks really nice animated as well. Great. So after you're happy with the layout and your customization, and one more thing that for more advanced users, if you guys need it, is we also offer URL tracking. So if you want specific tracking parameters for the dynamic ads, you can specify in this area, in this optional area here. And once you're happy with the ad, you can go ahead and save the ads. And what it'll do is it'll allow another preview to show you what the ads will look like in every different size that we have available. We definitely recommend selecting all ad sizes to reach the optimal inventory, but you can also deselect any ad sizes you don't want to run. Hit done. And then if you would like to create more ads, it'll allow you the option, or it'll also take you directly to the ad group you just created with all the ads that were created. So that's really it in terms of creating the campaign. It's only a few clicks and a few steps, and it's very easy. And you can also create more ad groups for the various different segments, user segments that you want to create. So I will actually turn this back over to Dave to summarize up the rest.
Great, thanks, Annie. So as Annie mentioned and talked us through, you're really only a few clicks away from getting a campaign up and live. But just like with the rest of AdWords, there's a lot of depth, a lot of opportunity, both within the creative and your ad group strategy, and of course your list strategy, to really think about how you segment and optimize your campaign. So as a way of recapping, the way we think of dynamic remarketing, remarketing in general on the Google Display Network, there's a few main focus areas that we want you to take home with you. First is that Conversion Optimizer with remarketing can do things that SEO alone has never been able to do before. the ability to leverage the data from your AdWords new remarketing tag, the pixels that you fire across your site, and to use those signals as ways to optimize towards a target CPA for you works extremely well, and we highly recommend making sure you always run both those products together. Additionally, the new remarketing tag gives you a single tag solution across your entire site. Whether you place that tag directly on your site or you place that tag within the Google Tag Manager or a similar container tag, it gives you an easy way to create new lists, new remarketing lists on the fly based on the feedback and data that you get out of your AdWords reports and opportunity areas. It also allows you to create lists that are focused particularly on a given creative objective. Annie's creative demo showed us creating a list just for product viewers. A product viewer might have a very different promotional message or headline than a shopping cart or even a post-converted user where you might be trying to upsell or cross-sell products to. Additionally, the GDN option is really designed to run for you. By selecting options like auto-customized layout, it gives the GDN the ability to optimize and tune the bids and the reach opportunity for your campaign based on your specific needs. And then finally, multiple channels is critical. One great advantage to the dynamic text format that Annie created for us in the UI is that it also runs on mobile devices. It also reaches additional inventory that you can't normally reach just with image ads. So really think about running all the sizes and all the channels that run across the Google Display Network. So now I think I'll hand it over to Pam. We'd love to hear your thoughts and any questions you might have.
Great. Thanks so much, Dave, and thanks so much, Annie. So we have plenty of time to answer questions, and there are a slew of them. So I'm going to get started on some of the basic ones and then kind of order it as it gets a bit more specific in terms of campaign management. So the first question, I guess, really talks to the tagging portion that Dave talked about at the beginning of the presentation. And the question is, do you have to use the one remarketing tag in order to do dynamic remarketing campaigns? So good question.
Yeah, so I can take that quickly. So the answer is yes. With the new remarketing tag, not only are you able to create these rule-based lists based on the page the tag is placed on across your site, but it also allows you to pass additional parameters into the tags. And for dynamic remarketing, the two parameters that matter the most from a creative assembly and optimization perspective is knowing both the type of page that the user is on, as well as the product IDs that the user looks at if they're on a product detail, shopping cart, or thank you page. And so by setting up those two parameters, which we're able to do for you directly within the tag structure, we're able to pass those signals into the Google Display backend and make sure we put the right creative in front of the user at the right time.
Thanks, Dave. This is also kind of a basic question, but do you have to use Google's Display Ad Builder in order for dynamic ads to work? So
you do today. Now, as Annie showed, the Display Ad Builder is an incredibly flexible tool. If you're familiar with it, there's literally hundreds of different templates. But what's exciting about the dynamic remarketing template, at least exciting from a guy that used to work at a creative agency, is that we actually have one template that's designed to adjust the content in, today I think it's actually 62 maybe, different layout varieties. And we're adding new layouts every week. So what that means is that you get all of the customization to change the copy of your headlines, the color of your call to action, even apply unique tracking codes directly within the creative. But you're also then able to apply those designs across multiple different displays as a creative. We've seen campaigns increase performance by 30%, 50%, even 100% in the Sierra Trading Post example because of having the layout selection adjust based on the site and the user viewing the ad. So there's both a performance and benefit out of it, but I think you also get to keep then kind of the branding and the design control of the creative. And sorry, one quick additional point to that. Again, we're adding new layouts every week, and we're really excited to kind of imagine and think and work with different creative teams to come up with how these new layouts can be implemented. The great thing about Display Ad Builder is that you get the benefit from that investment automatically when new layouts are added, when you choose the optimized layout setting.
Thanks, Dave. There's another question in terms of campaign setup and whether dynamic remarketing works without the link to Google Merchant Center. So this is asked by an attendee to the webinar who actually belongs to a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the focus for dynamic remarketing today is really focused around Google Merchant Center as a data source in terms of leveraging the tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands, millions of product options that retailers have to deal with. Now, a lot of the benefits that we covered today are also applicable to traditional remarketing campaigns. And if you're a nonprofit, and let's say that you have even 50, 100 different creative variations, the great thing about the Display Ad Builder product, if that's how you choose to create your creative, is that you can very quickly make copies and quick edits to different creative and create those different remarketing lists using the rule-based list builder in the AdWords audience library to actually create and target. So though the creatives aren't dynamic, you'll get a lot of the same benefits out of Conversion Optimizer, single tag unification, and smart list creation that we covered during today's webinar. But so to recap, today dynamic remarketing products are currently focused on retail feeds out of Google Merchant Center and pilots with our hotel price ads customers. But longer term, we will be opening up the product to more verticals as well.
So Dave and Annie, either of you can answer this. This is also another kind of fundamentals question about availability of dynamic remarketing. So what countries is dynamic remarketing available in? Is it globally available?
I'll let Annie take this one.
So it is available, like Dave mentioned, we are hooked up to the Google Merchant Center. So wherever Merchant Center feeds are available, in countries where they are available, dynamic ads are available. So I think it is definitely available in Canada, which is where one of the questions I believe is from.
Great.
And to that point, it also, like many AdWords campaigns that you're familiar with, gives you the ability to adjust and restrict your campaign's targeting both on language and on country at the campaign property settings. As Annie mentioned, a best practice for remarketing is not to do that. We actually see strong quality performance from campaigns when you leave them unrestricted, which allows a dynamic creative if you're running both French-Canadian and English-Canadian products, for example, for our friends up north. It allows the product to actually choose English or French based on the user's language as inferred by the Google Display Network without requiring you to create two separate campaigns. But obviously you can do that if that's your choice.
Okay, so there's one question about whether you can use this tool within AdWords Editor.
So a very good question that I'm happy to take. So today it's yes and no. So today dynamic remarketing creative and display ad builder creative in general allow you to change a few core features, like I believe the display URL is adjustable via AdWords Editor, and a lot of our clients use AdWords Editor for trafficking benefits. So they'll create one dynamic creative within one ad group and one campaign, and then use AdWords Editor to duplicate and make copies and traffic that creative throughout their marketing strategy. However, today you're not able to initially create a dynamic remarketing or display ad builder creative through AdWords Editor. Thanks,
Dave. There's a specific question. I know Annie can address this one. One of the attendees says that they use redirect URLs for their clients to track sales. Would we be able to provide two different redirects in the product feed, one for the PLAs, AdWords redirect, and the other one for the dynamic remarketing program?
Yes, so that's a really good question. So you can definitely provide two different types of tracking URLs for PLAs and dynamic ads within the Google Merchant Center feed. If you're already using AdWords Redirect, we allow you to use value track parameters. There is if PLA, if PE, and if DYN, and by using that within the AdWords Redirect custom attribute, you can specify what keys and values you want for each of the different ad types. So for FPLA, that would be for PLA ads versus for FP for product extensions, and then FDYN for our dynamic ads. Another way to do that is we also do offer another custom attribute that will only be used exclusively by our dynamic ads. and the syntax for C:\DRLP. And so if you don't want to update your AdWords redirect custom attribute within the feed, you can also add this new attribute that will only be used by our dynamic ads.
Great. Thanks, Annie. Here's a question about lists and list builds. So I just make the rule-based list general to product pages, but how does Google know which product to remarket to the user if they visit multiple products?
Annie, do you want to take that? So I'll take that. So when you create your remarketing list, when you create your remarketing tag, the AdWords interface will guide you with it, if you're doing dynamic remarketing, to not only place the tag on your site, but to also work with your webmaster to pass product IDs from the pages the user is visiting directly into the tag. So if you use a lot of common content management systems support this today, or if you're using Google Analytics to do e-commerce tracking, where you're possibly passing product IDs into your Google Analytics tag, it's the same kind of concept. So basically, the product ID of the page that the user is looking at is tacked onto the new remarketing tag, and then that's stored and used for dynamic remarketing. Now, we provide an additional tool called the Google Tag Assistant. It's an extension in Chrome that will allow you, after your webmaster places a tag on your site, to do quick validation to make sure that the product IDs that are being passed onto your new remarketing tag also match the product IDs in your Merchant Center catalog. That will give you the confidence in your campaign setup to ensure that everything will work correctly and remarket the way you expect it to.
Thanks, Dave. A somewhat related question to what you started talking about was someone wanted to know what the differences of using remarketing within the AdWords versus Google Analytics. So if you could reiterate and expound upon some of the differences and benefits of each route.
Yeah, really good question. So both obviously have tags that you can place on your site. Both I highly recommend placing tags within the Google Tag Manager, which is a free service that you're able to access. Just search on Google for Google Tag Manager. It allows you to do faster tag management, improve speed of your site, and makes it much easier to deploy tags on your page. But the way I think of the two separately, Google Analytics, which, as you know from last year, we supported the ability to create remarketing lists in Google Analytics and push those into your AdWords account for targeting at your ad group level. If you think of Google Analytics as really a deep site-side intuitive system for saying, what kinds of paths do users perform on my site? What kind of pages do they visit? What's the flow? You're able to create a list of, say, users that view the home page, the search page, and a detail page, which you can consider a very intended customer on your site, and push those remarketing lists over into AdWords. Now, what the AdWords new remarketing tag does for you is it's able to create one meta list of all your site visitors. That's our one unified tag principle, where it's one tag is one super list. And you're also able to then quickly adapt and segment those lists right within the AdWords interface beneath the shared audiences library in AdWords based on these different signals. Also for dynamic remarketing, we need the AdWords new remarketing tag to capture those product IDs. So I really think of the two as being very complementary. For a dynamic remarketing campaign, you might be using your Google Analytics tag to create lists based on passing a user performs on your site, and then you're using the AdWords new remarketing tag to capture and store the product IDs. So you'd end up targeting the both of them together within a single ad group to deliver not only the most relevant creative, thanks to the new remarketing tag, but also target those unique audience segments only identifiable out of your Google Analytics setup.
Thanks, Dave. I have a couple of questions related to tagging and a deeper dive into that. I think Annie can take this one. It's about where page type equals product, does product actually have to be in the URL? So for an example URL, like www.example.com/product/product-name, like, does that make sense? Can you explain?
Yeah, so for page type equals product, product does not have to be in the URL. It would actually be passed into the new remarketing tag as a custom parameter and value. But however, we do also allow you to create lists based off of the URL. So if you do have product in the URL, you could also create a similar list where I had created where page type equals product to be where URL contains product, and it would basically target the same product viewer list that both would do.
Okay. Thank you. Here's a question about product listing ads versus Google Merchant Center. Is it common for people to have a unique feed for their product listing ads and a unique feed for the Merchant Center to feed into dynamic ads, or is it kind of more common to see a combination of both?
And I can take that one. We typically see only one feed used for both, and it's because for dynamic ads, we do also offer a lot of overrides or special attributes if you just want to use the feed-specific or different areas for dynamic ads. As an example, one would be if you want products to just show in dynamic ads but not in PLAs, we allow a custom attribute that you can also insert into your feed that will signal that to our ads. But typically, it's very easy to use the same feed for both PLAs and dynamic.
And that also means that in the campaign setup, as Annie showed, it means you're able to use the exact same ad extension and product extension and apply the same product filters. So there really is a benefit in thinking of using a single Merchant Center account and a single Merchant Center feed for both display ads, product listing ads, and product extensions.
Great. Here's a question about actually remarketing lists and remarketing strategy. Besides, I think we showed one on the screen, Annie. Besides product viewers greater than or less than 14 days, or shopping cart abandoners less than 30 days, what are other remarketing lists that might be good to add to a campaign? So a question around going a little deeper than just the basic remarketing list that you might create.
I'll take this first, Dave, and then if you want to add on to it. So some of the other best practices that we do recommend is targeting buyers within maybe the last 60 days, as well as possibly your higher performing category viewers. So the more information you pass into the new marketing tag, the better strategic list we can create. Another good example is also possibly targeting either product viewers or shopping cart abandoners where the value of the cart is greater than a specific dollar value, and that's up to you on what you want to specify that to be, so that you can have your high value shopping cart abandoners versus your low value shopping cart abandoners.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I would echo the same thing that there is when you think of your tagging strategies, and really there is a tagging strategy in today's advanced remarketing campaign, is to think about additional signals that you might be able to pass in that maybe on the website as the user's navigating around that would benefit either today or even if you think in the future how you segment and create your remarketing list. And other signals that you think might help conversion optimizers do a better job of bidding on your behalf in the auction.
Great. There's just a basic question I think we should probably cover off because many people might not know, but the question is, how would you get your remarketing tag on your site? So what Dave had talked about, placing the new remarketing tag on your site. Maybe Annie, you can go into how clients might be able to pick up that tag to implement.
Great, yeah. So in my demo under the shared library, what you'll notice is that there will already be a default list called main list already created in your account, and there should be a tag link right next to the right kind of towards the right of it. So if you click on that link, what it'll do is it'll bring you to a screen that'll bring you the exact code of that new remarketing tag, and then that will be your new remarketing tag. And then what we ask for dynamic remarketing is to add on special custom parameters on top of that new remarketing tag.
Okay, great, thank you. Here's an actual question also again about Google Analytics versus Google AdWords, and it is about the tagging code. If I have made a change in my Google Analytics code supporting remarketing, do I need to add the code again if I'm creating lists in AdWords?
If you're just doing traditional remarketing, not dynamic remarketing, then no, you're actually all set up. If you've created the change in Google Analytics to create remarketing codes for the Help Center instructions, then you'll be able to push and create those remarketing lists from GA and target them within your ad groups within AdWords. If you do want to run dynamic remarketing, you will have to place an AdWords new remarketing tag on the site to make sure that you capture those page type and product ID values to match against the Merchant Center product catalog.
Great. Thank you, Dave. Let's see. There are so many questions. One of them, to talk more, I guess there's interest in terms of video remarketing and just giving a brief overview on what we provide in that channel. Dave, is this something you can talk to a little bit?
Sure. So there are other Google products you may be familiar with, both marketing within YouTube on your brand channels and YouTube mastheads, as well as some of our brand formats that not only do they have the benefit of serving rich, engaging brand ads to our users, but it also is able to create a remarketing list of users that viewed those ads. Those remarketing lists can be used with traditional remarketing to then message a user later. So think of it as a great marketing strategy campaign, where maybe you run a YouTube campaign for a day or have an audience that builds off of your brand channel on YouTube. And then afterwards, you're able to run creatives across the Google Display Network that target only those users and message them with, again, much more brand-oriented copy. So there are products, and I will contact your AdWords representative with questions about what the other product opportunities are, both in video space on YouTube and outside of YouTube, to create these targeted remarketing lists.
Great. Thanks, Dave. This is probably another question for you, but just in terms of recommendation engine, someone in the audience is wondering, is there any way to kind of control the products that show up in your ad, or is it fully automated?
So one of the best ways to control the products that show up in your ad is to configure a product filter within the AdWords product extension that you set up right within the AdWords UI, very similar to how you would set up a product filter for product listing ads. It's actually not only very similar, it's exactly the same. So that's one way to restrict a category of products or exclude certain products from appearing within your ad. Now, specific to the recommendation engine, in terms of how Google decides what products to serve into a creative, besides just the products that a user looked at on your website, there's actually a lot of signals that we take into account. Not only do we take into account the contextual signals that I mentioned, both the topics and the terms for the publisher website where your ad's appearing, but we also take the user's interests, we take the user's demographics, we also look at recent history on the user in terms of pages they visited, and that whole mix of signals ends up going into a very sophisticated scoring algorithm that then chooses the right products to put within the ad, along with products that maybe the user looked at directly on your site. So in terms of how that decision is made, that's all automated, and we tune it aggressively to bring you the highest conversion volume at the best conversion rate possible.
Great. So we have just a few minutes left, and I think there's a couple of questions just around creative best practices. So we know that auto-optimized layouts give you the suggested best layout, but there's a question, and you know, Dave, I know with your agency background, your creative background, do you have any best practices in terms of ad copy, something very specific like come back and finish your purchases on whatever product, or something more generic? So the user isn't turned off. So that's kind of one question about it. But there are other questions around if you don't use auto-optimized layouts, like do you, after running dynamic ad campaigns for a long time, does it start to become obvious what are the most effective layouts without that kind of auto-optimized turned on? So a couple of questions around creative best practices, if you want to address that, Dave.
Sure. Let me address the latter question first about running explicitly selected versus auto-optimized layouts. So I think there's one key advantage that auto-optimized layouts bring that explicitly selected layouts don't. And what that is that there are, when we look across all of the layouts from an engineering perspective, there are definitely some layouts that at an aggregate level appear to perform better than other layouts. But the key to using auto-optimized layouts is that it chooses the best layout for a given user on a given impression. So it may actually be that one of the lowest performing layouts at an aggregate is actually the best performing layout for a couple of customers in your remarketing list on a couple of sites across the Google Display Network. And that's really where the quality comes in. Instead of saying what's best, what's worst, what we really say is what's best for this impression. And that's why the variety of layouts is such a benefit. Again, up to 50, 100% performance improvement from choosing that auto-optimized layout. But let's say you don't want to go that route. Let's say you want to actually explicitly select a layout. Now, one thing I would recommend, as most marketing people would recommend, is that the best answer is very subjective. So we highly recommend doing the same level of experimentation, testing that you do in your display campaign as you probably do today in your search campaign. So instead of just selecting one layout and writing one headline, maybe create a copy of that ad, of 3 copies of that ad within the same ad group, and choose different layouts and maybe tweak different headlines. Now, specific to the headlines that you select, and even specific to the layout that you choose, most of the time, I would say that we see better performance from clean, simple, and obvious layouts. So layouts that put the product and the product benefits, like the price, directly in front of the user, and headlines that instead of having a lot of copy, get straight to the point. Like Pam's great example, it's headlines that say things like, free shipping on orders over $25. To an end user, they instantly know the benefit that they're getting by purchasing directly with you instead of one of your competitors. Likewise, call to action can be a very strong signal, and you'll be surprised at how different calls to action can change in performance across different types of advertisers. For one advertiser, free shipping might be the best performing call to action. For another advertiser, buy now or click here, maybe even learn more is the best call to action. So we always encourage experimentation, and you'll actually notice that there are some layouts within the optimized layout rotation that don't even include a call to action, that really just focus on products. So feel free to test, highly encourage experimentation. Every advertiser ends up kind of having what we see as a unique mix of best practices, which is why with auto-optimized, we try to discover those as much as we can for you programmatically. Sorry for the long answer.
No, that was great, Dave. I think that was actually a really good kind of cap to all of the questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to everyone's questions, but I think that we covered kind of the majority of what people are asking about in terms of, how do I set up my lists and implement the new remarketing tag to make sure that I'm successful in kind of capturing my audience on the site. And then, the questions around feeds and the merchant center, availability of dynamic remarketing as a solution across in terms of globally, and then talking about, some best practices around creative. So I think from a question perspective, we've kind of addressed the main components of our presentation. And so I want to thank everybody for attending today. And again, just to remind everybody to fill out the survey, which is on the last screen. The survey link, I think, is on the screen now. And everyone has a chance to enter, if you fill out the survey, to win a Nexus 7. So thank you, everybody. And you'll get a follow-up email with a link to this recorded presentation in case you've missed any of the details. And thanks again for joining us today.